Chapter 15 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex revealed something quite intriguing, which is the return of Sasuke Uchiha. Now this might sound crazy since it wasn't really a focus of the chapter itself, but it was hinted at since chapter 13. You see, this goes back to the moment that Ryu, the Shinki Shinju, pretty much yeeted code from one of his claw marks embedded in the cube. We then get this panel of Hidari looking very mysterious, and this might seem like nothing since Hidari always looks mysterious, but there's a reason why this is very significant. For this to make sense, let's go back to chapter 13, when he was resurrected by Jura using the Thorn Soul Bulb. The first thing Jura asked him was if there was any problems. He then replied saying, "Who knows? I can't tell." Jura then goes on to say, "I see. Seems you know that you are Hidari. Your identity appears to be strong and intact." Now at first this didn't seem like much since he's just confirming that Hidari's consciousness is intact. But then you get to chapter 15 where he did something similar with the Shinki Shinju. The first thing he did was to give him a name because he believes that it's necessary to establish his identity. Now of course this makes perfect sense since he was just created, so Jura had nothing to work with. It's a new entity. This however falls apart when it comes to Hidari because why would Jura need to confirm that this revived version of Hidari is the same as it was before, even though it was Hidari's Thorn Soul Bulb that created him? Well, that's likely because Jura has no idea what happens when a Shinju is destroyed and later reconstructed. This then opens up the possibility of one of three things. Either reviving a Shinju using the Thorn Soul Bulb results in the resurgence of the consciousness that inhabited that specific Shinju, or 2, maybe it results in the creation of a new personality with fresh memories, or 3, it could also result in the body being hijacked by the person whose essence was used to create the Shinju in the first place. Now in this case, option 2 wouldn't make sense since the revived Shinju already confirmed that he is the same as Hidari from before. So either he's telling the truth, which validates option 1, or maybe he isn't, which validates option 3. Now this does go a bit deeper because Sasuke's return will likely result in Hidari awakening his Sharingan, and there's a reason for that. You see, these Shinjus were created using the power of the Ten Tails, Ishiki's essence encodes karma, and the chakra of the ninjas that got turned into a tree. Sasuke's chakra was specifically used to create Hidari, which is why they look similar, and also why Hidari is able to use the Chidori. This simply means that if Sasuke was to return in some shape or form through the body of Hidari, he wouldn't just be an entity with some semblance of a consciousness, but he would also be able to understand emotions. This is very significant for members of the Uchiha clan specifically because their powers are directly tied to their emotions. So Hidari's lack of a Sharingan, despite stemming from Sasuke's essence, is likely due to his lack of understanding when it comes to emotions. By the way, Hidari awakening his Sharingan was somewhat hinted at in chapter 11. This was around page 26 after Sarada countered Hidari using her own Chidori. He then went on to say, "Those eyes of yours, Jura told me about them. They're Sharingan, aren't they?" Now under any other circumstance, this wouldn't mean much. He's just making an observation. But he then went on to put 2 and 2 together, which is that they're both using the same jutsu, which then led him to say that he was curious about why Chidori was so hard to control. But it seems like eyes like Sarada's are needed to master it. So this simply means that Hidari will need to gain a Sharingan at some point in the story in order to be able to use Chidori properly. This can only happen if he steals Sarada's, take the one from Sasuke's body, or simply awaken one of his own. The first 2 options are highly unlikely, especially if Sasuke has indeed returned to some degree. So the most likely case is that he simply awakens it. By the way, there's a reason why Chidori is used in conjunction with the Sharingan. That's because the Chidori amps your speed beyond what your eyes can naturally perceive, so it leaves you open to counterattacks. That is why Minato told Kakashi to never use it again, and it was only resurrected after Obito gave him his Sharingan. This allowed Kakashi to perceive his environment while moving at such speeds, thus not being vulnerable to counterattacks. So Hidari in this instance wasn't aware of that, so he charged in and didn't anticipate Sarada being able to take advantage of that weakness, whilst also incorporating her own Sharingan to aid in dodging his attack. By the way, the answer is no. The Renegon doesn't have the same perception ability or the same perception prowess of the Sharingan, which is why Sasuke still uses his Sharingan to locate a shrunken Jigen, and also anytime he uses Chidori. With that said, there's obviously a limit to who can take advantage of this loophole. It's not like little Timmy from down the street is going to drop Kikishiki Otsutsuki if he charges at him with a Chidori without the aid of a Sharingan or Byakugan, right? So the power level of the person does matter to some degree, which means that Sarada was strong enough to take advantage of it. Now Hidari awakening a Sharingan seems impossible for some, the main reason being the fact that the Sharingan is a Kekkei Genkai. These types of abilities are described as DNA anomalies that allow its wielders to use unique techniques. Most Kekkei Genkais are passed down between generations of clans, and most individuals only inherit one of these abilities, but that isn't always the case. Now you also have 3 different branches of Kekkei Genkai, which would be advanced nature transformation, corporal, and also visual prowess such as the Sharingan and Byakugan. These abilities can only be accessed through one's DNA, which means that it should be impossible for the Shinju to awaken these abilities since they were created using the chakra of the person who got devoured, not the body itself. So how exactly would the Sasuke Shinju even possess the gene needed to awaken the Sharingan? Well, it all goes back to the Shinki Shinju. You see, chapter 15 pretty much confirmed that Ryu is still able to use Shinki's Iron Sand, which can only be controlled using the Kekkei Genkai known as Magnet Release. Now, as I mentioned before, there are 3 types of Kekkei Genkai, and Advanced Nature Transformation is one of them. In order to use it, ninjas must create and release 2 different chakra natures simultaneously to combine them into a new one. Now, while any ninja can learn to transform their chakra nature and even transform it into different natures consecutively, it is impossible for them to transform 2 at the same time, regardless of talent or effort. Only those with the genetic capability of these Kekkei Genkai have a chakra system capable of double nature transformation. With that said, the exact origins of Kekkei Genkai vary. Some are genetic mutations from the union of 2 individuals with an affinity towards different natures, and some stem from the bloodline of the Sage of 6 Paths such as Kimimara's bone technique, and others belong to the tail beasts that were passed down to their Jinchurikis such as Naruto using Boruto release or even Roshi using lava release. So what this means is that the Shinju somehow inherited the ability to use a Kekkei Genkai just by having a portion of Shinki's chakra, which also means that it should be possible for Hidari as well. Now this might seem like a giant contradiction to what I said before, and that's because it kinda is, though we have seen something like this before, such as Sasuke awakening the Rinnegan after receiving chakra from Hagoromo, which means that you can awaken Kekkei Genkai through chakra depending on who does it. What I will say is that Sasuke technically received Hashirama cells from Kabuto moments before awakening the Rinnegan as well, which is very significant since the combination of Ashura and Indra's chakra does result in the manifestation of the Rinnegan as well, as stated by Hagoromo. So it is likely that Hagoromo didn't just give him a new Kekkei Genkai through chakra per se, but instead just sped up the process. Now, I would argue that we have no idea what's going on inside that tree, nor how data is being transmitted to the main body responsible for creating those thorn soul bulbs, which then blooms into the Shinju. So it is possible that DNA is being transmitted as well, likely using the power of the claw marks embedded in the claw gripes, which means that Hidari, or Sasuke through Hidari's body, can indeed awaken a Sharingan without being considered a plot hole or plot convenience. Now just to clarify, I'm not saying that Hidari's Rinnegan is gonna morph into a normal Sharingan, but more so that he'll go on to awaken a Tomei Rinnegan similar to Sasuke. This Rinnegan is pretty much one that has the powers and abilities of the Sharingan as well, which will then allow Hidari to have better control over the Chidori. Now this is where things will get interesting, because even if I'm wrong and Sasuke doesn't take control of Hidari's body, it is still possible that Hidari himself goes on to deepen his understanding of human emotions, which can lead to him awakening Sasuke's Tomei Rinnegan. This could give him the ability to use Sasuke's ability to switch places. I'm not gonna say the name by the way. You have Amaterasu and even Flame Control. All of these abilities are etched into Sasuke's very essence, which Hidari currently has access to. By the way, I did see some arguments about whether these Shinjus can inherit more than one ability, because so far Jura has only used the Biju Bomb, Matsuri only used Earth Release, and the Bug Shinju doesn't really have an ability since Bug didn't have one. He more so uses the ability of the Ten Tails, which allows it to morph its body. Then you have Hidari, who has used the Chidori multiple times by the way, but people tend to forget that he also used the Fireball Jutsu to kill Ninja 617 back in chapter 11, which by the way is also one of Sasuke's jutsus. So this proves that they can indeed manifest more than one ability, and I wouldn't put an arbitrary limit on it. With that said, I think Sasuke returning in the form of Hidari and possibly awakening his Tomei Rinnegan could lead to some cool stuff happening, such as the resurrection of Sasuke's tail beast Susanoo. This is one of the coolest forms in the history of the Naruto franchise by the way, and not just by design, but also how it fights, such as using a lightning based staff, easily summoning large bolts of lightning from the sky, and even Sasuke's strongest technique, that being Indra's arrow. Like, seeing this form only once is a crime, so bringing it back in the form of Sasuke, who's now a tail beast, would be awesome. Now I've only focused on the fantastical element of this, which is the powers and all that stuff, which is cool by the way, but there's also a narrative element here as well, because this is Sasuke, his daughter is there, Sasuke Uchiha, and also his student Boruto. So the relationship between him, who is now a Shinju, would be quite interesting to see. Though I think I should pose the question to you guys as well. Do you guys think it would be more interesting for Sasuke to return in the body of Hidari? Or do you think he should stay gone and Hidari should develop his own feelings and maybe switch to the good guys? because there's always this guy within the villain group in every anime who tends to stray and go over to the good side, and that seems to be Hidari so far. He seems to be the only one interested in finding out who he is. Jura is 100% certain about who he is, the same thing with Matsuri, and same thing with the bug Shinju and even the Shinki Shinju that was just created. So I feel like there's something there that is very obvious that the writer is doing, but I'm not sure if you guys think it's heading towards Sasuke returning in Hidari, or more so that Hidari develops his own feelings and becomes his own person, and maybe even sacrifices himself later on to save them, thus bringing Sasuke back. I do think that would be a bit more interesting story-wise. So let me know your thoughts down below, and we'll discuss it in the comments. And also, if you guys want to discuss it in the Discord, the link will be pinned in the comments as well. So that's it guys, drop a like if you liked it, and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.